From San Francisco, it's Grumpy Old Doc with Dr. Gene Bede.
Hello, this is Dr. Gene Bede, and welcome to the Grumpy Old Doc. Our very first podcast was How PBMs Rip You Off. In that podcast, I was talking a little bit how Anthem WellPoint colluded with Express Scripts to loot the equity of their company and pass the expenses on to consumers. In addition, I kind of generally railed against PBM practices. I think they lack transparency. They take rebates/kickbacks from manufacturers, and in general, that goes right to the bottom line. It doesn't go back to the policyholders in any way, shape, or form. Today we're going to explore prescription drug costs with a pharmacist. I am talking with the owner of Save Right Pharmacy and Compounding in Chicago, Jim Kolar. Welcome to the show, Jim. What can you tell us about yourself?
Well, Gene, thanks for having me. I am a pharmacist and pharmacy owner. I've owned Save Right Pharmacy for 25 years in Chicago, and we're considered a hybrid pharmacy, which means we do regular prescriptions and we also do compounded prescriptions, which are customized medications.
Now, to get an idea of geography here, I'm out here in San Francisco. Jim is on the phone with us, and you're like in the shadow of the Major League Baseball World Series champions, Chicago Cubs. Is that correct?
Gene, we are within walking distance of Wrigley Field, which is the home to our World Series Chicago Cubs. It's also right along Chicago's lakefront, so we're in a very diverse community right there.
Yeah, you can't beat fun at the old ballpark.
Yeah, it is.
So tell me a little bit about what the compounding, you said you're a hybrid pharmacy, and the compounding part is a little different. Tell me about what the compounding thing means. With
compounding, what we try to do is work with a prescriber to customize medications for a patient. We like to think of it like a triad where we're working with the patient, what their specific needs are, and trying to get the prescriber to customize something that fits the individual needs of that patient.
Back in the day, I remember, been out of practice long enough, I'm probably dangerous, but they were for like kids that a medicine was only available in a pill, an anticonvulsant or something, and the druggist would make a suspension, or they couldn't tolerate some dye, or I remember back in the day when there were studies showing topical antibiotics worked for acne, but they weren't commercially available, so the pharmacist would crush up some capsules and propylene glycol or something and give it to you. Is that still what that business is about?
It is part of the business. What you described there, a lot of that can be done at just about any pharmacy. But at the compounding pharmacy, we have a larger supply of the chemicals that aren't available to most pharmacies. We have some equipment that's specialized for compounding that we can do various things, maybe make a different dosage form. We have a database of formulas that we do.
Recipes. You have a recipe book.
Recipe. We call them formulas. But yeah.
Right.
But, some of the other things we do besides what you mentioned, we're seeing a lot of patients that either have allergies or sensitivities to certain ingredients such as corn and gluten and lactose. If the chemical is available, we can make that without those problems that those patients have. Some of the patients have really, really done well on the meds. Sometimes the med gets discontinued. Maybe it wasn't a big seller, but you know what? There still may be patients who need that medication. One that comes to mind is Midrin for migraine headaches.
Yeah, that's an old medicine, Midrin. I remember Midrin.
Yeah, things like that. Probably our biggest areas right now, which are really customized for a patient, are bioidentical hormone replacement for the men and women and thyroid replacement, which we can make in any dosage form compared to the commercially available, which are a few strains, take it or leave it, adjust it, but we can make it into a different dosage form, so we can do a topical, we can do an oral, we can do a sublingual, we can do a suppository. Some of the other things we do are topical pain management, which we combine different ingredients to be applied topically. The advantage of that is you eliminate some of the adverse side effects, plus you're localizing the location where you're applying the cream.
You compound, you don't really manufacture. That's the sort of difference. And I guess the thing I want to make sure is clear, if I'm on Daraprim, that the good folks have decided to increase its price by thousands of dollars, I can't come to you and you can't make me a cheaper form of Daraprim, correct?
That is correct. When you talk about manufacturing, we do not manufacture.
Now, that's the trouble that one compounding pharmacy, everybody remembers this poster child where a bunch of people got meningitis from injections from stuff manufactured by a compounding pharmacy. And they were actually at the scale, they were pretty much manufacturing, is my understanding. But they were obviously involved in a lot of bad practices. When you have a good compounding pharmacy, what are some good practices that you stick to make sure that your patients don't get into problems from the stuff that you're compounding?
Well, first of all, you need the proper training, and you have to develop standard operating procedures. This way, every employee does it the same way, which is the correct way, every time. We do everything on a prescription only. When you manufacture, you're doing a big bulk, and you're shipping it sometimes around the country to facilities.
Everything that's what they were doing, I think. They were manufacturing things and then slapping labels on it for the patients as they showed up, rather than compounding it individually for each patient.
Manufacturers really come under the FDA. Compounding pharmacies come under the individual state board of pharmacy.
So that's sort of the line. Are you making it specifically for a patient upon a prescription? That's compounding. Are you manufacturing a drug in some way? Not compounding, manufacturing in a different set of regulations. Do I got it
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct. Absolutely.
So I want to go through my pet peeve before we get too far into it. You know what my pet peeve is, Jim. You've heard me rail on it. You want to take a guess what my pet peeve is?
It's that EpiPen, isn't it, Gene?
Yeah, it's that $300 EpiPen. I just can't get over how a company can take a product, they can increase it from $25 to $300. It's only when somebody starts to complain about this that it gets any news coverage at all. And then they can introduce their own generic for $150, which is still way more than the $25 that it used to be. Or CVS can come out with a generic that's $75. And everybody's a hero in this, even at the best case scenario, people are now paying triple what they used to pay for this darn EpiPen a few years ago. So let's say I have a kid with a peanut allergy, and I got good insurance, okay? Aetna, WellPoint, United, one of those guys, and they got their PBMs. I come to you with this prescription for the $300 EpiPen. Is there going to be any trouble getting it filled?
Most insurances will cover it. Now, the copay can vary widely between the insurances.
So are there people coming in and paying $300? They're paying list?
No, but I've seen $125, $100, and then they have a copay assistance card, and that helps bring down the cost
and
also.
That's from the manufacturer?
That is through the manufacturer, correct.
We'll go back to copay assistance cards sometimes, but I think they're an interesting play because they sort of allow a manufacturer to really price their drug high and health plans to have a large share of pain in terms of copay or deductible, and everybody's cool with that because the drug company is covering it. And then when the person burns through their deductible, the health plan is on the hook for the entire amount. They don't get any copay assistance when they get to the point where they're paying the full amount. So copay assistance are very interesting and I think somewhat nefarious practice. Okay, so I'm not going to have any problem. What if I ask you, can you give me a generic EpiPen?
Gene, depending on the PBM, sometimes the generic has a higher copay than the brand.
Okay. And when you say the generic, are you talking about Mylan's own generic or some of these non-AB generics that are out there trying to crack this?
It can be Mylan's generic, yes.
Let's say I'm a mom. You know, I have a stereotype about moms being more excited about this stuff than dads. It's just my personal experience. But I'm a mom, and I've experienced my kid having a reaction to peanuts, and I say, you know, I want one of these at school. I want one in the car. I want one at the summer cottage. I want to buy more of these. My doctor gave me a prescription for 6 of them. Any problem with that?
Depending on the insurance I've seen, a lot of times, and they actually come in 2-packs.
Okay, right.
You'll have a 2-pack at home, usually a 2-pack at school.
Yeah.
They do have short expirations on them, too. So usually every school year, the school nurse gives you that 2-pack back, and you got to go have your prescription filled again to get a current one in date.
I'll tell you something, though. If I had an expired EpiPen and I was going through anaphylaxis, I'd go for it. But
it's been documented that they're good for years after the expiration date. You have that in the hand and your kid's having a reaction, you're going to use it.
So some insurances will pay for more than one. 2 is sort of the standard. Beyond 2, my understanding is people are probably paying for that out of pocket.
I've seen 2 2-packs allowed. That's
Okay.
probably the max I've tried.
There's a $300 EpiPen. People are paying $100 out of pocket. They're using their copay card. About how much money does a community pharmacist make when they fill a prescription for one of these expensive EpiPens?
If we dispense two packs, you're looking at somewhere $1,000 to $1,200 total cost, and we'll probably make $30 to $40 on that sale.
So about 3%?
Yeah, the most of the money is the manufacturer and the middleman.
If it's something way cheaper, if I write a prescription for 30 tablets of penicillin VK, and the person's going to pay $5 or $10 or maybe even less depending on their insurance plan, do you still make about $3 off of that prescription as well?
Sometimes not that much, Gene.
Now, I'm assuming the big chains, they can buy in bulk and they have a cheaper price, so they make a little more money on each prescription. Would that be a correct assumption?
I would think so. Again,
but you don't know. You don't know their books.
Costs
but
are. Right.
That's a good assumption, I think. If I got to buy those extra EpiPens, what am I going to pay for it? I'm going to pay the full price, the $1,200?
You're probably going to pay, if you're getting the brand name, it's going to probably run you $600 for a 2-pack.
Okay, so I'm going to pay the list cost.
And
if you don't charge me that list cost, you're going to be giving me the medicine because you've got to pay. That list cost includes some little 3% markup for you. Is that correct?
That's what I'm paying, correct. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I got to ask about those cash prices. Obviously, you're not going to set it lower than what you pay or you won't be in business very long. But you could set it whatever you want. You could charge people $3,000 for a 2-pack if you wanted, and if they wanted to pay it, everybody'd be cool, right?
Well, we try to establish a fair price, something that is fair to the consumer and that we can have a profit on.
Why is there such a spread on that cash price? That's my question. Why can I get 50 tablets of an antihypertensive at Costco for $10, and it costs me $106.40 at my local Walgreens if I pay cash?
One thing to look at when you're paying cash at a chain store is sometimes they have their own club, which you can join for a small fee, and it gives you a huge discount.
So maybe by quoting that high cash price at some chains, they're trying to get you into their loyalty club.
That, and also when they bill an insurance company, they have to bill them their usual price.
Ah.
If you belong to a club, that's not their usual price.
I see. So they're sort of locked in by best price considerations with insurance agencies, but they can do this end run with the club around it for cash.
Correct. Or they can use what they call these discount cards. You can get them in your utility bill. Here's a prescription discount card, save money.
Can they use them at your pharmacy if I get one of these things? AARP used to have one, although I think they're now all in on Medicare Part D. But if I get one of these discount cards, can I go to any pharmacy with it, or is it a Walgreens discount card?
It's any pharmacy. We do not take discount cards. Some other stores do not. We try to maybe match the price if possible. You got to remember that if we do take that card, we have to pay a fee to the company that's offering that card.
I see. It's like Visa or MasterCard. They're making
There's a percentage going back to them, too. Correct.
I got it. But patient assistance programs where they have help with their copay or deductible, that's a little different.
It is, and that usually comes from the manufacturer.
Right. Now, do you bill the manufacturer directly, or do you give the patient some piece of paper that they use to get money from the manufacturer?
No, we would bill the PBM, who is the middleman for that manufacturer.
Okay, and so you bill the PBM.
Now, the other thing you have to look at on those cards is most of them are not allowed to be used on federal programs.
Yeah, Medicare, particularly Medicare Part D, has a prohibition on those patient assistance programs.
Exactly.
Are there any other wrinkles in Medicare Part D? I'm assuming you probably have plenty of Medicare Part D patients.
There are. I mean, when you look at some of the formularies, sometimes they will require a higher price drug to be used than a
Why is that?
generic.
Why is that?
The PBM has a rebate on that medication.
One of the bad behaviors I've seen PBMs do is right before a drug goes generic, they'll lock in a competitor with a long-term contract with a large rebate. So they provide some insulation for a drug that has a competitor go generic. You seen that kind of behavior ever?
We have, yes.
Yeah, that's fairly common, I think. I got a kick a number of years ago. One of the PBMs was running a patient adherence program to get people to take their meds. And oddly enough, it was for a purple pill, which is used for a symptomatic therapy that was